All right, guys, today I'm going to be going through my monthly review, talking about how the month of August went overall, how much I earned or didn't earn, and go over all my metrics. But I'm also going to be talking about um, basically why it's so tough to get started day trading. And man, did I feel that pressure the last 2 weeks of this month. It was, I think it just felt like it crushed me. I just didn't do very well. Things didn't go very well. As obviously you can tell, things were not doing good for me. I want to learn how to day trade. Honestly, I want to learn how to do this. This is, this isn't something you do for 10 minutes and it's just, you catch on and you do it and you're great at it. I mean, there's very few people who can do that as a person. You can just pick this up and start learning how to trade overall. And that started earlier this week when I took one trade and it just kind of blew up in my face again. Lost a lot more money overall. So just to kind of recap, right now overall, I took a trade on MRM on Monday morning, beginning of this week, and right at about 7:01, I jumped in on this trade. Now, I didn't jump in at the bottom of this candle. I jumped in at the top of this candle at $7.31, right in here. So that point, yes, it did start to push up. I felt like on this candle here, we were coming back and we were going to have this momentum to go back up. And overall, you would think that this was kind of going to start taking off again, but it wasn't, because if you would have looked at this point, and I didn't, I would have noticed that the MACD was crossed over. I mean, this MACD was below the signal line, meaning that the chances of this really taking off, not going to happen. Not until they come back together. It may have right in this area, but it obviously didn't. In fact, this stock, I don't think it ever got back to that line again right here at that opening part, at the first part of the move right here in the beginning of the day, which really wasn't even that great of a move. I mean, because there were some topping tails, it traded sideways, then went back up, went back down, had this pull, and then just never pulled back up and got up to 774 on MRM earlier in the week. And it just never went anywhere. So why I took that trade, probably not a good trade to take. And, that's just why it makes, you have to have that time to learn all these things. So I want to talk about those things. Why is this so tough? And I want to do my review and I cover some of those things. So let's just talk about reviewing the month overall. So to start, August, first half of the month, the first 2 weeks of this month were really good. $45 each week in earnings. My success ratio for each week, 50%, 80%, very good. Did really good with that. Overall, those weeks, really good. Just I made some money, and then the weeks forming after, not so good. Basically, the first trade on the 19th, the last green day I had for the whole month was on the 19th of August, and then gained a little $25 there, which was a nice little trade, 25 cents a share at 100 shares on GOVX the week before last year. And then I did a trade on AUD and a trade on REVB and lost significant. I don't want to go over 50, and I was about a max out on definitely on Tuesday that week of the 20th, and about max loss on the 21st. So I took 2 trades, lost $45, took 2 trades, lost $63 on the 20th. And then I took Thursday, Friday off, decided to, my emotions were running a bit high, so I decided let's pull back from this a little bit and just take a couple of days off. Well, that streamlined into the following weekend in MRAM I took $100, and guess what? Lost another $17 on the first trade, and I was like, something's just not right here. So I held off, and then it just gave me that feeling like I just didn't want to trade the rest of the week. So, and honestly, I was just really frustrated. So there's a lot of things that were going on in here, and getting started as a new trader can be tough. It is tough. As right now I'm not in the best position. The best thing I had about this whole month was I actually had more green days than I had red days. and I was at 56.25%. And that was, if you look at like from a test standard, that's not really that great, but on a trading standard, it's good. It's decent, It's not the best in the world, but if you were trading at say 65 to 70%, you're in probably elite status, I would say, as far as a trader goes. So if you base it on that, so we're not terrible. So that was the best part of the month. But then we start looking at the rest of the metrics, and it kind of goes downhill from there. So if you look at just accuracy as far as trades over 10 cents, only 12.5% of the days this month. I think it was only really 2 days overall. Yeah, two days. This day right here and this day right here. The rest of the days, I couldn't get over 10 cents a day to save my life. Honestly, it was tough. It was really tough. I could give back 10 cents real quick if I wanted to, but I just couldn't make 10 cents if I wanted to per share. So that was tough. So my earnings EPS for the month was 2 cents a share, but honestly, I didn't have all these filled out. I'm sure it would be a lot less overall if I did. So overall my metrics just terrible. I actually took a loss of almost $32 for the month. So not so good. First half of the month was really good. We looked like we were in a good position to keep going forward and making things great. And it was in just the last half of the month, not so good. So my confidence so far just to go full time, or just to not even go full time, but just to start an actual trading account, putting real money into it, get out of my actual paper trading account, probably not so good. So overall, just not the best. So let's talk about this. This kind of prompted me to come up with this. I started sitting down thinking about, why is this so tough for me? Why is this tough? So I had to sit down and I started thinking about and reflecting on this a little bit. It's like, why is this so tough for me? Why is it so tough to grasp this and have it just one successful month for, change? And if I can't do that, I have no business being in an actual real account trading with real money and losing a whole bunch of money, because obviously I don't want to do that either. So I have to have this build up. I have to get a track record build up and build up this confidence yet, because I still just don't have it yet. So if you're in a similar boat, hopefully this episode will help you. This video will help you. And hopefully we can talk about a few things that will give you some of these things to ponder and think about, and maybe it will help you and as well as me get through this period right now. And maybe by the first of the year, we can start thinking about opening up an actual account and going forward with things. So let's get into it. So there are 5 things I want to talk about here. These 5 things I think are the reasons why it's so tough to get started as a day trader. And the number one thing is, to start with, number one is I haven't learned enough yet. And what I mean by that is I haven't seen enough yet. I just haven't. When I look at all of this stuff right here, yes, I've got a grasp on some of the fundamental stuff. I've got a grasp on some of the technical stuff. I've got to understand my strategy. I understand my risk. I've got a trading plan in place. These are all things that you have to learn. These are the basic fundamental things you have to have in place just to get into this. You don't want to just open an account and jump into trading one day because it sounded neat and people were making a lot of money with it, because you're just probably going to lose a lot of money, and there's a lot of inherent risk with that. And I urge you not to do that. Obviously, I did not do that. I don't recommend you do that. But when you look at it, my trading account, my paper account, as you can tell right here, is only at 1,058. I started this all the way back at the end of May. I think it was like the 21st of May this year, 2024. And we're into end of August, going into September now. And at one point, I was up 25% in this account, meaning I was up to $1,250 in this account, in my paper trading account. And that's, when you think about it, that's a 25% gain since May. And now I'm back down to roughly $58, which would be right around a 5.8% gain since the end of May when I started this. So honestly, all this gain I just had, now I've just had a huge drawdown over the last couple of weeks, and now I'm looking at things again like, is this really going to work for me? Is it going to come together? And honestly, I was really doubting that this last few weeks, like maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this isn't going to work for me. And I'm sure if you're doing this as well, you're thinking these same exact things. But what I have to remember is I haven't seen enough yet. I mean, I've only been doing this since March, which, isn't really that long to kind of grasp all the techniques and all the things that are really going on here, just to learn one basic strategy and do decent at that strategy and get a decent success rate and earnings, per share and things like that. It's going to take that time to just put that time in, that hard work in, to eventually see those results. That's what it's going to take. And I know that. So you have to spend the time just to learn all of these things. You have to spend the time to learn how all the fundamentals work, how all the technical stuff work, how to do your strategy, understanding your risk management plan and stuff like that, and when to quit and say I'm not going to trade anymore today because my risk plan says don't trade anymore today, because when this happens, I stop trading. And obeying that plan and following all your rules and understanding things like your technical indicators, like when I took this trade here, and I should have realized, like, hey, we're not in the right spot. This is not an A+ quality setup trade. Being over here might have been okay on this side of the move, because now we had places going up. But even at that, I would have paid attention, like, hey, we have this big topping tail right here, and then things went sideways, and it's just not good, clean price action and stuff like that. Just paying attention to those things and understanding that, hey, once we got over to here, the volume bars started to get a lot bigger and they're red, and that meant there's a lot of sellers in the midst here, and that maybe I should have just stayed out of that trade altogether and would have avoided it. And maybe it would have gone up and I would have lost out that trade, but more than likely it wasn't going to do that. It just was not going to do that. So should have just stayed out of it altogether. So that's the first thing. You just haven't learned enough. You haven't seen enough, and that's going to be tough to do in the beginning, because you just want to get. I know when I first got in this, I thought, oh man, in a month I'll be in a trading account and I'll be earning some money and getting this going. And here we are, almost 6 months later or something like that, roughly, and still not there, still in a paper trading account, still struggling to keep above $1,000 in my paper trading account. And it's going to take time. And for some of you, maybe you pick it up quicker. Some of you might be harder even than when I got it right now. So the only benefit I will say is I'm keeping above the 1,000 and I'm not losing a ton of money. So even with all the losses, I'm still doing okay. Not where I want to be, but I'm keeping my head above water and not just like losing all the money I stuck into this and going broke right away. So I am learning things. I'm getting there. I'm getting things figured out, but it's taking time, and I still got to put that time in and get there. So that's number one. You just haven't learned enough, and you just got to spend the time and just learn it. So number two is you haven't traded enough yet. So it's not just enough to learn all these fundamentals and learn all the things that come along with trading, from the fundamentals and the technical and how to take a trade and learning your strategy, putting this trading plan together, following your rules and all that. But you need to take enough time, have enough time just to take all these trades from beginning to end, just trading in and out, day in and day out, and keeping track of those results and just seeing where it's all at and all those things, and just taking these trades and understanding, okay, why didn't I trade? And that's the primary reason why I started this channel, because that way I could go back to these trades and I could say, well, here's what I was thinking when I was doing this trade, but it didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? And then after the fact, I can look at it and say, well, it did work out because the MACD was crossed over, and the momentum, we were on the backside of this momentum, so we were going in the wrong direction. Even though it was kind of going sideways, the MACD was obviously showing that this was in the wrong position. I should have stayed away from it overall altogether and just waited for a better setup to come into play here. So, and that's the thing. You have to take a ton of trades. I don't know how many trades I've taken in this account. I think I can look it up somewhere, and I can look up, maybe I'll do that later on today, but I should look it up, how many trades I actually took on this account and where I am overall. But knowing that, I could honestly say that I should have never even considered this as a possible trade, because knowing where this sits at right now, I mean, here was obviously the front side of the move, and then we started seeing some of these red volume bars bring up. I should have known better. I should have. Why didn't I? And I'm holding myself accountable to this, because I should know that this was not the right place to get on the stock. I was in a okay stock, but I missed the move. I got in, I start trading at 7 in the morning, and this move had already happened and was starting to dip back down, and we were on the backside of this already. I shouldn't even looked at this. I should have said, well, this is okay, but it's just, it's just not going to be the right spot. So that's that right there. Just those things, you got to do it enough just to see it. I think honestly, if you're even considering this idea of trading, I think you should spend a minimum 2 months, 3 months. I recommend 6 months, even just learning stuff, and don't be in a rush to get in this, because, and I know some people will talk about it and they're like, just trade for 2 weeks, and then if you can do okay, then get into it. I don't think you saw enough in 2 weeks. That's like trying to say, I know everything about climbing Mount Everest in 2 weeks. That's impossible to do. You need a lot of training, months of training to figure that out, just to climb Mount Everest. How do you think you could do that with trading? I mean, this stuff's been going on for a long time, and there are so many little, what I would say, nuances that you just haven't seen yet. So when you get to it, you see it and you say, oh yeah, now I've seen why that doesn't work. I don't take a trade below VWAP, because it's going to end up, or right below VWAP, because it's likely going to bounce off resistance there, and I'm going to not get very far, and I'm probably going to be on the losing end of a trade. So knowing that, I wouldn't take that trade the next time, and seeing those every time, and just going through the motions every day. I think that's important. Get up every day, get in front of this. I know the last 2 weeks I haven't been so good at this, but I am going to be changing that, because I have to get up every day. I have to take my trades, and really the trading part of the day only takes maybe a half hour at most for me, because I'll sit down at about 9:45 till 7, and then I'm going to say by 7:30 a lot of times I've already made my trade and I'm done for the day. So 45 minutes to an hour at the most. And I take it before I go to work a lot of times. I don't even wait for the 9:30 bell, because I want to get my trading in, I want to do it, and I want to get done with it. Now, not saying if there's not a good trade, if there's no good trades, I won't take it and I'll wait for later. I just have to be willing to go for what's available at the time. And if it's not good, I just got to be willing to sit on my hands and do nothing. So that's all part of it, and learning those things. So I think that's honestly the best way I learn is by doing. I would say second would be watching video, and third would be reading books and stuff like that. I'm reading books on trading, but obviously that takes a lot more, because I'm focusing on the doing, and I'm focusing on the video content from my mentor and stuff like that a lot more than I'm reading books and stuff like that. I'm not saying I'm not doing that, but I am doing that. But it's not as much as the first two, because that's the way I learned the best, is by doing and watching these videos. So that's something I kind of discovered about myself a lot. I thought, I have to read books and do all that stuff. That's great and all that stuff, and it does help you out. The books that you do read on trading, if you read the right ones, they can definitely help you out. But I think seeing and doing help the best. So doing especially so. All right, so that was number 2. You have to you haven't traded enough yet, so you need to just take a ton of trades, build up that record, and keep doing that. Number 3 is you need some money to start trading. You need money to start trading, I should say. I wrote that down wrong on my notepad here, but so overall, you do need money to get started trading. That can be a little bit of a conflict for a lot of people, even me, because if you have no money to really throw at trading, and like you're just living paycheck to paycheck, I don't know if I recommend you to get started in trading with real money, at least yet. and even in my situation, money is a lot tighter. The last few years have been really tough on me. I mean, financially, I was doing really well before that, but then in the last 3 to 4 years have just really gotten tough. This economy has gotten tough on me. Money has gotten a lot tighter. You know, my full-time business is not doing nearly as well right now. So that has caused some unforeseen financial difficulties for me. Not that I want to stop trading or get away from that. I still love the idea of day trading. It's just, you need to have a little bit of money staying. You don't need to have $25,000 to get started trading, like they recommend for the PDT rule and all that stuff. You can start with as little as $500 to $1,000. But here's the big thing. If that $500 or $1,000 is what you need to stay, paying the bills and stuff like that, and that's and I know people that are this way, that it's that $500, $1,000, they need it to pay bills. They need it to get ahead and to keep things going in their life. And they're stretching every dollar to every nth degree that they can possibly push it. I get that, so if that is the case for you, here's what I would say. Focus on learning and focus on getting in a paper trading account and just learning as much as you can. Maybe right now you don't have that money, but that doesn't mean you can't get started with this. You can get definitely started with this. You just start in a paper trading account. It doesn't cost you any money with like I'm doing here with Webull. And you can start learning these things. You can follow my mentor, Ross Cameron. You can follow him, follow his YouTube channel. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel below. You can start following his videos. I've been doing that for a long time now, since the beginning here. That's how I got started, is following Ross's channel, and I got into paper trading here on Webull, and I'm just picking up new things as much as I can. I don't have a ton of money to spend, like to go buy Ross's courses and all his tools and stuff, but I do have the availability to sit here and learn and take the trades and save up the money eventually. So maybe it might take a year, it might take another 6 months, something like that. But in that time, I can just be learning as much as possible and building up my track record. So when I do eventually have that money available to me, that I can turn around and fund that account and start trading. I don't have to start from square one. Well, I do got the money and now I got to start learning this. No, because what's going to happen is you're going to turn around and, well, I need the money to pay for this now. And all of a sudden the money that was there saved up for this is now gone, and you got to start all over again. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to start all over from scratch again. You even for $500, $1,000, I plan to start with $1,000. That's why I set my paper trading account to $1,000, because I got to know what it feels like to do that. So I want to have that available. So that was number 3. You haven't got the money to get started yet, and that's what makes it tough. That can make it tough. So I recommend save that money up, set up just a savings account. I know, like in my case, I just have a savings account set up, and I'm just moving like 30, 40, 50 bucks every week into it, and just building up that account, building up that account, building up that account. And then eventually I can take that money, which I have saved up, off to the side, not using for my regular money, and I can just put it towards this and get started. Once I have the metrics and everything available and ready to go, I can just pull that money out of there and I can get started right away. So that's number 3. It's going to be tough, the money. So yeah. All right. Number 4, you need to have good metrics. So this is what I'm kind of elaborated with in the last tip, and that was, you need to build those metrics up. Obviously, my metrics are crap yet. They're not reliable yet. I won't say crap, but they're okay, but they're not to where they need to be yet. They're not where I could be at this point where I am ready to go full time. They're not earning, and I'm not coming out with like $200 or $300 in profit, or where I'm having 20 cents earnings per share roughly, or 10. I like to be above 10 cents per share. I'd like to have a 60% success rate. Those 2 things right there. And I'd like to be doing it for at least 6 weeks to 2 months roughly. And if I could do that, and I can keep doing that with no problem, trading the strategy that I have set forth for me right now, then I'm ready to go to that account. But until then, I'm not going to do it. because even if it takes me another year, I'm willing to do that. And that's the question. Are you willing to put that amount of time into this and get up every morning, make the trades, and just move on and get to that point? Until you get to that point where you can trade and have a 60% success ratio, earning say 10 cents at least per share on a decent most days, and getting to that point where you can reliably make those trades and almost always have a pretty good day. And then maybe one day out of a week you have one red day. I mean, one red day, that's what my mentor suggests. He says, and I know you don't want to have a red day, but one red day, if you can get to one red day a week and then 4 green days, I mean, you're on your way to success. It's just a matter of time, and to continue that and keep moving forward with it. So that's what you need to be doing. You need to be focusing on your metrics. When I look at my metrics here, I see where I'm at. I see, well, yes, I had 9 out of 7 good. That was good. My 56, almost 60% here, but my profit loss ratio is low. Just not perfect, where I want it to be. It's closer to a 1-to-2 ratio, to be honest. So for every dollar I'm earning, I'm losing 2. For every dollar I'm earning, I'm losing $2. So that's not a good. I'd have to be right 67% of the time to be profitable with that strategy. So that's tough. That's hard to do. So but it's well worth it if you can get to that point as a trader, just 60%, and getting to a 2-to-1 profit ratio. That's what I suggest. So that is how I'm working on this. I'm tracking my metrics. I can't afford like the TraderView software to do that. I just don't have the money for that available. I want to stick it towards my education on this eventually, but most importantly, setting up my trading account so I can get into that and eventually buy into Ross Cameron's program at some point. So I really want to do that. I've been struggling, but I will do it at some point. It may take another year, but I will get there. And I will, if I just keep focusing on it and keep going for this, I know someday I will get there. And I know that if you're thinking the same thing, you want to do this, you can get there too. It's not going to be impossible. So that was number 4. That was, you need to have good trading metrics, and that's going to take time. That's, you just need to constantly track where you're at, where you're going, and improving those metrics every single month going forward. So, all right. So that was number 4. Let's talk about the very last one. And I think this one really, it's not pertaining to trading so much. It is life. And life can get, that's number 5, is life can get busy and it can get hard. You kind of look at this, the 21st, 22nd, that's when my kids went back to school right there. Things got really stressful for me, because when school starts, my kids go back to school and I'm like, man, I hope they do good in school and I want them to do well and all these things, but things just get stressful at that point, and I get really busy. Life gets in the way, work's busy, family. If you have a family, you have a spouse and family, and they're in sports and stuff like that, now you're giving up that time, and things just get really busy throughout the year. You know what I'm saying? And life tends to get in the way, especially when you're somebody who's 40 years old in your 40s and you're dealing with all these other aspects, versus if you were someone who was in their 20s, who's not married and dealing with, you might be going to college, or you're done with college. You might be living at home with mom and dad yet, and you don't have all those things to worry about, like, hey, I got to pay for rent, or I got to pay for my mortgage. I got to put food on the table. I got things to do with my family and all these other things. And that stuff's going to be a part of this as well, depending on where you get started with this. I didn't get started in my 20s. I got started with this when I'm 43. So it's a lot different. It's hard. So I have to be willing to get through all those things that are keeping me busy in life, but also to be able to just put a little bit of time aside, just a little bit of time to sit around and work on this stuff. And I think I can do that. And what's great about this, and I will say this with trading, and works good for me, is that I can do trading early in the morning, because I go to work around 8 in the morning roughly. So I can work on this 6:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning. So I got about an hour, hour and a half a lot of times to sit down and work on this every morning, do the trading. And then in my evenings when I got extra time, I watch some videos, read books, stuff like that, and just learn a little bit every day. And you know, as busy as life can be, some days I don't get a lot of that done. I do a little bit of trading in the morning. Usually I can get the trading done in the morning unless I got something important. I got to be somewhere or something. But most days I can be there to do the trading. I can get there and I can do it. And I just say, hey, you know what? This is important and I have to make it that priority. That's the other thing. You have to say this is a priority. That doesn't mean like shoving your family to the side and saying, hey, I don't got time for them to do this. I got to focus all on this, because that's not good. There's going to be a certain level of balance that you have to have with this. If you don't have it, I mean, you obviously neglect other things. It's going to cause those other areas to be issues as well. And, you know, trading isn't the only thing I do. I have a family, I have a full-time business, but then I also have some side hustles on the side that I do as well. And so that's another thing, you know, I got to deal with. So there's, you know, when you think about it, several pieces to this puzzle you're trying to fit into a day and a week and a month, and it's going to be tough to do that. So you have to be willing to adapt, and you have to be willing to fit those things into your schedules and set those periods of time. So for me, trading in the morning right away, and I do a lot of my learning in the evenings when I'm sitting there in the evenings and I got a little bit of free time to myself. This is when I spend that time to watch videos, to read books, to review and do videos like this and review my days and my trades and get back on track and keep things going and understanding and learning. And every day just learning that little bit more and getting for it. So those are my 5 things right there. So overall, you can see that right there. Why, you know, you haven't learned enough, you haven't traded enough, you need money to get started, and that can be tough for people. And you need to have good metrics, and life can get busy. So just understanding that's why it's tough to get started day trading. You know, looking at my stats, yes, they're not perfect. There's good things, there's bad things, but overall, there is always going to be things that you can work on. So next month is a new month, obviously, which is great. We're going to be starting that here. I think the first trading day of the month is going to be, let's look here. Let's see. So Monday, the September 2nd is going to be the first trading day of the month right there. So we're going to get started right there. I've also changed my metric stuff around a little bit again. I know I do this all the time. I'm trading it, changing it every time, but I want to be able to track every individual trade. So I was trying to think, how could I incorporate this to track every single trade, but then track what my daily earnings were. So I've changed some things around, added another column for daily earnings. So if I do take multiple trades, I'm trying not to make multiple trades. So that's a discipline thing. So I'm trying to stay a little more disciplined with this and take just one trade, one A+ quality setup in the morning, and just shut it down, move on with life, and just do that. I think I can do that. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to work at it. I'm going to keep working at it, and I want to track a few other metrics. I want to track my weekly P&L as well. So I want to track my success rate for the weeks and track my profit loss ratios and focus on improving metrics as I go. So, you know, this has been tough for me for 6 months. I've learned a lot. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not, but you got to be willing to bust through all of those emotional issues and just know that if I execute on this all the time, it's going to get better, and I'm going to keep improving as a trader. So as always, trading is risky. So know that. Practice in a simulator, know all those stuff. If you'd like to follow along with my channel, just follow me as a trader, as I trade. I'm not trading live, but I do recaps on my trade every single day, or as much as I possibly can. Obviously didn't do it last week. But I recapped on last Monday's trade, but I'm trying to recap on those trades as much as possible, especially when I have the availability, you know, when life doesn't get too busy and stuff like that. So I try to do that, try to keep things going in the forefront. But if you'd like to follow along, definitely do that. You can subscribe and hit the notifications and all that, you know, all that kind of stuff with YouTube, and do that. Subscribe. I'd love to have you part of the channel. I have new videos coming out regularly. I think right at this point of this, we're up to 26 videos. This will be my 27th video for the channel. So definitely subscribe, check it out. I'd love to have you a part of this as I learn to day trade as a beginner.